Hey everyone, this is Tony Teaches Tech. I'm Tony, and in this video, we're going to be talking about hosting multiple podcasts. Now, right off the bat here, there are many podcast hosting providers who claim to offer unlimited podcast hosting. However, when you bypass all of that marketing material and go under the hood, you'll find out that there are indeed many limitations to the claims that they're making. Now, my goal with this video is to not only educate you on what to look for in a podcast host, but I also want to give you my recommendation for a podcast hosting provider if you're interested in hosting multiple podcasts. So if that's something you're interested in, let's get on into this video. All right, guys, so by definition, unlimited podcast hosting is just that. It's the ability to have multiple podcast shows or series and publish as many episodes as you want. Additionally, unlimited podcast hosting should not limit the number or size of your episodes, nor should there be a restriction on how much storage space you use. And finally, at least in my opinion, podcast hosting providers should not charge you based on how many downloads or listens your podcasts get. However, as I alluded to before, many podcast hosting providers unfortunately do place some sort of restriction on your podcasts. So in an attempt to help you understand the difference between what some of the major podcast hosting providers offer in terms of unlimited podcast hosting, I put together the following table for you guys. As you can see, all of these podcast hosting providers have some sort of unlimited podcast hosting claim. However, all of them except for two are truly unlimited. We'll come back to that table in a little bit, but first I want to explain to you guys the 5 different categories of limitations that podcast hosting providers might impose on you and you should be on the lookout for. The first one is listen-based pricing. Podcast hosts like Captivate, Transistor, and Simplecast charge you based on the number of downloads your podcast gets each month. This means that if your podcast explodes in popularity, so does your monthly bill. For example, with Captivate, if your podcast gets 150,000 downloads per month, your bill will be $90 for that month. The next restriction here is episode size limits, and for this one, Pinecast and Anchor both limit the size of individual podcast episodes that you can upload. In my experience hosting my own podcast on Pinecast, this equates to approximately a 1-hour compressed MP3 file at standard quality of between 170 and 210 kilobits per second. Now bump that up to high quality audio at 320 kilobits per second and you will hit the 80 megabyte episode limit after just a 30-minute episode. The next restriction is storage limits, which this one's kind of complicated to explain, but to keep it simple, you get basically a quota, a certain amount of data every month that you can upload in new episodes. So if you go over that quota, you'll have to pay more than what your monthly rate is. So for example, with Libsyn, the plan with the most amount of storage is their $40 per month plan that gives you 800 megabytes of storage every month. On the other hand, with Buzzsprout's best plan, you're limited to uploading at most 12 hours of audio each month. The next restriction is bandwidth limits, where some podcast hosts will limit the amount of bandwidth your podcast can consume each month. And this one directly correlates to the number of listens that your podcast gets per month. So in addition to their storage limit, Buzzsprout also limits the amount of bandwidth each month to 250 gigabytes. Now, according to their website, 250 gigabytes is equal to between 20,000 and 40,000 episode downloads per month. Now, if you hit these numbers, there's the Buzzsprout Pro plan at $49 a month, which includes up to 1 terabyte of bandwidth per month, which is equal to approximately 80,000 to 160,000 downloads per month. And finally, one last restriction that podcast hosting providers might impose on you is actually limiting the number of podcast shows or series that your podcast can have. And the primary example here is Podiant. And Podiant actually has multiple plans which allow you to host one podcast, but with their network plan, you can host up to 3 different podcasts for $35.97 per month, or up to 20 shows for a whopping $238.80 per month. So with that all being said, as far as I know, the best truly unlimited podcast hosting provider that allows you to host multiple podcasts on the same account without any of these restrictions whatsoever is Castos. Now, I have to admit that Castos is not the only truly unlimited podcast hosting provider. There are other ones out there, but they are in general much less affordable than Castos. So basically, you're going to be paying $19 a month for unlimited podcast hosting with Castos, and that will actually be $190 per year, or something like $15.83 per month if you pay annually. And in comparison, another podcast hosting provider that does have unlimited podcast hosting is Podbean, but their hosting plan costs $129 per month. Now, obviously, Castos has a ton of other features in addition to what we're talking about here today, and I won't go into all of them, but one that I do want to point out is their integration with WordPress. It's one of the best integrations that I've seen so far to date. I've actually made a video about this if you're interested in having a web presence for your podcast, which I highly recommend. And in addition to that, they also have not free, but included with their plan, included with that $19 per month, the ability to have a built-in podcast website, as many as you need, as many as you want. And that is, like I said, included with the actual plan itself. So let's stick this chart back up on the screen here. And, my hope is by this point in this video that you guys have a better understanding of what to look for in a podcast host, especially if you're looking to host multiple podcasts. And, it's just been my experience that Castos is not only an affordable podcast host, but it allows you to host multiple podcasts, and in fact, unlimited podcasts without any of these restrictions that we've been talking about. So if that's something you're interested in doing, hosting multiple podcasts, definitely check out Castos below in the description. I have a link for a 14-day free trial. It is an affiliate link, so I will earn a small commission at no cost to you if you do sign up and end up paying for that service. Guys, if you have any questions about hosting podcasts, hosting multiple podcasts, or questions about which podcast hosting provider to choose, definitely let me know in the description below. I'll be more than happy to help you out. And if you got any value out of this video, please give it a thumbs up. It really helps with getting other people to see this video. And please do subscribe to this channel if you want to see more videos like this. And if you do, I'll see you in the next one.